that this goes the distance. But I think Loud has improved leaps and bounds over 9Z over what the improvement that we've seen from 9Z. And I suspect that Loud will be the better team. A fun little quirk, by the way, about the maps that we've seen so far today, Jesse, starting off on Lair for FaZe versus ENX and now moving to Consulate. These are two of the 3 maps that got updated in the most recent operation called High Stakes here in CJAX. So destructible ingredients, as Ubisoft calls them, environmental destruction, as you know, the rest of us call it, are now being added to these maps, and we will see some different textures as well on these maps. I hope Baseto is able to rejoin. You tend to play these games on LAN, so I assume that they will be able to get him back in. As you can see, the timer is paused. Jesse, what are your expectations here?
I mean, I think as the desk was kind of saying, this should be a match that favors Loud, but it really is up in the air because we've got so many changing variables. 9Z making a roster move, Loud making a roster move, and maybe Loud's a bit more familiar than most teams after they make a change. But even still, after some time away from the team, it's tough to know how Flashery is going to work back into this squad. I will say we've had a really interesting operator ban phase just go down in front of us. We started with a Monty ban, whatever, bog standard, nobody cares on Consulate. Then we got a mute ban. Now, that's not particularly surprising. I actually had a chat with Twister after EWC, and we talked about some of the operator bans on Consulate, and mute is one of the more popular ones on this map, specifically because it's such a good map for Deimos, and it's such a good map for Grim. I don't know if 9Z would have banned the Grim had they not seen that mute ban first. It feels like a reaction. Trying to survive in that top floor with Grim bees coming all around through every window, and you don't have mute jammers to save yourself to stand on top of, can be a nightmare. So I think 9Z saw that and they decided, you know what, we need to get the Grim off the board immediately. And then it's a Vigil being removed from Loud to cap off the ban phase. I don't know what's going on with the Vigil ban. I don't believe we've seen a Vigil ban even once on Consulate through the South America League so far. It's not something I've personally seen at the very least. So going to be interesting to see what kind of the thought process is behind a ban like that. Generally, when it comes to defender bans on Consulate, Azami is the most common choice by far. Really strong operator to lock down some of those windows, some of those angles. Clash can be really popular too. We saw a lot of Clash bans at EWC on this map. Azami, the most popular operator domestically in South America through stage 1. Both of those operators allowed through the ban phase. So I'll be very interested to see if 9Z want to use either of those ops, if we do see some Azami coming out, or if we do see some of that Clash coming through as well. Clash has not been an operator that we've seen a ton from these guys, at least back in stage 1, looking at some of their previous operators played. It wasn't a huge one. I know Will played it 3 times. So there's a little bit of Clash play there, but we certainly set ourselves up for a very fun and interesting first half.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
If we're just looking at the top 15 most banned defenders in the SA League last stage, Vigil doesn't even register. And in 15th place, it's actually a 3-way tie. It's Legion, Aruni, and Frost, all of whom were banned a single time, at least as far as my numbers go. So given that, a Vigil ban is very outside the ordinary. The newest operator added to Rainbow Six Siege, Denari, is on your screen right now. The Swiss operator who's got some trip mines that get thrown out, 7 in total that create an interlocking laser grid if thrown in sight of one another, makes his debut down here in South America. Showed up on Playday number 1 of the NA League. Showed up, I believe he was in Australia too, if memory serves me correctly. You can fact check me on that one, Jesse. So... an operator that the general consensus seems to be has a niche and has a role, but isn't particularly strong enough and is still too early to have much of an impact. So we'll see exactly what happens. Is that'll be Vicente rocking that operator and running the Scorpion in hand.
Should be fun to see what he can do with it. Already a spawn boost from Will as well. Looking for Flashery, who's just beneath him, but the information is really strong. Tuku down below in the pulse scanner will know that he's out on the rappel. It didn't result in a nitro kill from Will, unfortunately. That's going to be half of their explosive util gone within the first 60 seconds of this round. Kind of interesting to see a team start on the piano bomb site. Generally, top floor is where you want to start on this map, but I don't mind switching things up, keeping yourself unpredictable. Flastry into admin now will be the first one in the building, and they deal a lot of damage to Will as he just escapes down that, I believe it could have been the hatch or maybe Visa stairs as he makes his way off the top floor to get back to his teammates a little bit. Lucky to be alive after some early engagements.
Yeah, Will being the only one to take any real damage here. On Valkyrie on an operator with persistent gadgetry is not the end of the world. I mean, if you're going to lose somebody early, losing your smoke, your pulse, maybe even the lesion would be a much more damning blow, as those are active gadgets. Those are gadgets that need to be used when you are still alive. Duco in particular running on that pulse, an operator that has seen a slightly higher pick rate than before because of this new machine pistol as a secondary gadget. It allows Pulse a bit more freedom to play. Now action over in Projector Room, the B-bomb site, or rather just above the B-bomb site, as candelas go off, gas canisters are tossed out, and the Ying of Besetto looked ready to strike, but is held back, at least for the time being. Logic bombs going off, SDK is down, so is Live, and a great start here from 9Z. They'll lose Perez on the side of Loud after taking Vicente down. But it's a 4v2. Flastry and Besetto are the last two standing. Neither with a kill just yet. They've got some work to be done. Excellent hold from 9Z at the moment. Top floor control for Loud, Jesse, but now they have to translate it to the bomb site where 9Z is waiting very eagerly in the final 30 seconds for these last two players on the side of Loud.
And don't forget about Tuku down in the basement on that pulse. If they don't plant on the hard floor, he's going to have a great nitro to just insta-win this round. And even if they do, we'll be feeding all of that information to his teammates. Very strong position from 9Z. Don't see how they lose this.
I mean, I don't see what Besetto's able to do here as he will creep up. He's got a shotgun, but he's far enough away from the bomb site. He's got two players isolated. Gets one on yellow, immediately heads back, draws him out, but he knew that he was just wrestling with the clock greater than anything. Tried to get back to the bomb site with 3 seconds left and 3 players still alive. Not really possible. Having to deal with an entire team of shotguns on yellow stairs is not a fun prospect. A great first round for 9Z.
Yeah, and great first round from their entry duo specifically. Zhao and Vicente have been really, really nice in that first round, working together as those top floor roamers. You saw how close they were playing over towards CEO. Vicente gets that first pick, not the opening frag overall in the round, but gets the pick to kind of stop that push coming forward through the top floor. And then even after he dies, it's Zhao right behind him. He's able to get that trade back, find that second frag, and make sure that the man advantage stays with 9Z. Really good coordination from a duo that haven't been playing together for very long. Vicente, probably of all the players to join the South America League this stage, is the one that I knew the least about. I haven't seen him play. He hasn't played professional Siege in a very long time. He was with the Argentinian team Pissers for 2 stages back in 2022. That was the last time he saw any pro play. So it's been a while since we've seen him on the big stage, and you know, it's nice to see him starting off with a strong round. Only 1-1, maybe not the flashiest game, but I thought really solid and consistent performance.
Not every new player needs to light the world on fire, especially if you're bringing somebody in to play on less fragging roles. I mean, Mitrix made his debut on ENX the previous game. Did not have the best results, but I don't think anybody on that team really did, so we'll have to wait until tomorrow's matches to know whether or not it was just a blip or maybe there are greater team issues, etc. ENX will be in action in the very first match tomorrow, as they were today. They played FaZe Clan, who back in stage 1 finished second. ENX played W7M in tomorrow's match, who finished first. These are, of course, in the group stages. FaZe Clan ultimately finished second in the league overall, as W7M had a bit of a disappointing run through the playoffs. But I mean, going up against the top 2 teams through group stages for days 1 and 2, yet again, that's a rough entry point for ENX. These 2 teams will be in action tomorrow as well. 9Z in the middle of the day going up against Los, and then Loud will play up against Black Dragons. That will be the real test to me. That BD Loud match tomorrow will be one to keep your eyes on. There'll be 2 teams that have a bit of an unpredictability factor to them. They finish the standings tied in the same spot with 13 points apiece, though Black Dragons ultimately got that playoff spot over Loud. A swing in and some damage is taken by that trip mine as Flastry gets control of admin and then shoots that trip mine that also slows you down. Loud has control of admin and now needs to push over towards the bomb site, which last time most of the action was in that part of the map by Projector, and by office, well, that's where the bomb site actually is this time. So the job might be a little bit harder for Loud.
It's been really slow to get into admin. I mean, that combo with Denari and Castle was just so difficult for them to clear through. They have this space now, but 60 seconds on the clock, and they haven't even touched the bomb site. This drone getting in now is the first little bit of information that they've had. It's going to be a Warden in sight, 3 toxic baits being held by Zhao. Still got a lot of utility to play with if you're 9Z, so this should be a stronghold, and they get the opening pick too.
Zhao's been playing very, very well. Tuco, who was on the pulse before, is playing those same FBI operators, and Loud is just falling by the wayside. STK with 2 desperate attempts over by Desk, but Tuco picks up a 2-piece to seal the deal on that round. The first kill came out about 7 seconds before the last kill was made, so a very quick response to Loud taking up map control on the side of admin. It was a bit longer to get into the building than I'm sure Loud wanted, but 9Z were prepared for it. Loud did not do due diligence to drone things out, and 9Z took advantage of it. Excellent start to the former core of Argentinian players. Now, as we mentioned earlier, now running with 3 Brazilians on the team to 2 Argentinians, so at least there are some non-Brazilian players for this. They really give a true South American league feel. Still, the change looks mighty good, and a lot of our speculation at this present point in time looks kind of silly. We all seem to be in agreement that, well, with the exception of Leo, that Loud would be the better team. That has not proven to be the case through 2 rounds.
It is consulate defense, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I like what I've seen from 9Z. I mean, they're not winning this off of fluke rounds or anything. They're playing solid consulate defense, and they're doing a great job both in the early round to get themselves the advantage and in the late round to capitalize on that advantage. Nice to see Tuku starting off 5-0 as well. A player who did not find very much success in Stage 1. Ended up with a .87 KDR, -10 overall. I know he wants to turn that around as one of those 2 Argentinian representatives. So nice to see him being able to have a bit more of that impact and be kind of a flex player for this team. Can do a lot of different roles. We'll see that for him continuing with his 3rd different operator, the Valkyrie, being brought out for round number 3.
To your point about Consulate defense, Consulate was the 3rd, technically, least played map through the group stages of Stage 1. Played only 53 rounds. 66% of those rounds were won by the defenders. That makes it the 2nd most defender-sided map in the SA League map pool. The only map that was more defender-sided was Skyscraper, and it was only played for a total of 30 rounds, 3 times. Doesn't really give you enough of a window into how a map actually functions. For perspective, Consulate was almost double Skyscraper's play rate. So expect the defenders to do well, as 9Z are doing.
Good utility to clear Zhao out of that top floor. He's forced to run all the way back with a sliver of HP. You're making the angle on the spiral door, but you know he's already gone. It's a little too late. Senche is still somewhat on the top floor, and actually he's making a push out of Visa. I thought he was just going to rotate down the stairs, but decided that he might want to go for a play. That's Tuku as well alongside him. So 2 different players that have now started to retake this mid floor. Zhao as well has rotated back up. So 9Z decided they're not happy with how that first round went, or how the start of the round went. Reaggressing into the top floor. They do provide a little bit of pause to Loud, but they don't get much done in terms of damage. They don't really frag anybody out. They deal 0 HP back. So now there's about 75 seconds. Loud will start to work on some of these hatches, will start to turn their attention back towards the basement where the site is. We've got a lot of stock breaks, both Perez and Live bringing operators that can do heavy damage to the floorboards down below. SDK and Flashery there for information, and Basetto will be holding F inside the bomb site under those smokes. A classic garage push looks like what we're in store for.
Lots of soft destruction on this main floor for Loud to put as much discomfort on the side of 9Z's defenders as possible, move them out of those familiar spots. And I mean, if you're playing Ram or Buck, you likely know exactly what these 2 floors look like so that you can do the most damage and also get to the most common spots where defenders will sit with pretty good security and safety. It's a bit of sloppiness by Nitro. I mean, you have to know if you're a defender where those hatches are and where the openings are. At this point, most of your coverage is completely gone, so 9Z are just in a terrible spot because Loud has been allowed to exist up there for so long. Yet Zhao continues his great play. Vicente goes down at the hands of STK. Time running out as Loud sweeps through the bomb site. They'll prolong the timer, but they lose most of their team to Tuku, who's shut down by STK. Will gets on the board, a name that we have not said at all through 2 rounds. He and Basetto will find themselves in a 1v1 showdown. Basetto's managed to get out of the bomb site, out of the garage, and in a very tough spot. Will need to attempt to counter disable or engage in a 50-50 gunfight. No defender likes to be in this spot. Basetto will here attempt. Will hops off. It's just a game of chicken at this point. Will engage yet again, but I mean, I don't know what you're going to do. Basetto has X-ray vision when you've been outside for that long, not to mention the shadows will help him quite a great deal. A terrible spot for Will to be in, but he almost gets it done. Maybe too close for comfort for Loud, but they still win the round and prevent 9Z from doing a perfect defender bomb site rotation.
Solid clutch from Basetto. You know, he's not a guy to frag very often. He had the worst KDR of any player back in stage 1, but he's the hard support. He's the guy playing shields, the guy playing hard breach. We don't expect him to have to frag out. What we expect him to do is plant the diffuser, open the wall, and win in the clutch when that's required. And that's exactly what he did. Now, he almost didn't do one of those things. Nitro had the opportunity to completely auto-win that round for 9Z because there was 25 seconds to go. The wall was not open. They had barely cleared out the Electroclaw, and he was sitting in sight with 2 Tuber canisters still in his pocket that could have been used to close that doorway. He ended up scrambling as he wasn't in the right position, opening death on the hatch play, which completely changed what that round could have been. If he had been in position to keep that wall closed for the last 20 seconds of the round, it would have been an entirely different situation that 9Z probably would have walked away with the victors. That little lack of positioning, though, that lack of util play coming out just does punish them in the end. They do a good job to bring it close. Tuku with a great flank up the top floor, but not quite enough in the end. Loud to get it done, and I think we'll be a little bit relieved to get their first win against 9Z.
I mean, they're definitely looking at their standings in stage 1. A round extra against 9Z, preventing overtime, would have made Loud a playoff team. And yet they couldn't get the job done. And, you know, you've only got a handful of opportunities to give yourself the best chance at making it to the playoffs. By the 3rd or 4th game, a lot of those places in the standings are going to be not cemented, but starting to dry to the point where it's going to be very hard for things to change. If you give up the first 2 or 3 games in terms of points, you're going to be in rough shape moving forward to get into that top 6. Brazil is an incredibly competitive region. And, well, South America in particular. Now that we've got all Brazilian teams, we'll go back to probably calling it Brazil, even though it is South American, and there are 2 Argentinian players. If you look at the stats, NIP finished in 3rd place with 16 points. ENX finished in 9th place with 10 points. 2 wins separated ENX from 9th and 3rd place. That's how close it is. And you have 1 or 2 rounds go a certain way, and the entire roster of teams that made the playoffs can completely change. There were no teams that ran away with the region. W7M were obviously the best, but even they were only a win ahead of FaZe Clan in 2nd place. So if you're a team like Loud, yeah, that 1 round makes a huge difference, Jesse, because you have to keep pace with this 9Z team. If you let them run away with this first half, it might be too much of a hill for you to climb. And if Loud drops this game against the team that finished in dead last in stage 1, that doesn't necessarily bode well for Loud for the remainder of the stage making it into the playoffs.
A lot of damage onto Tuku. They've already dropped 1. They cannot afford to drop a second. Thankfully, it's Zhao who strikes back onto STK. A long time coming trade to be able to clear out that first frag, but a swing from Tuku, not necessarily one that he had to go for, but chooses to try it, ends up falling to Flash Tree, so the man advantage remains in favor of Loud. They have a lot of time left. They don't have up above, and look at this angle from Zhao. They know he's there, so they'll deal some damage. That forces him off, and then there's late rotations from 9Z will give them the opportunity to close this out. Watch out for the C4 in Nitro's pocket too.
Oh my, great shot from Perez to give 9Z a disadvantage in numbers. Despite Zhao's role, he's been finding himself in early altercations, probably far too often for comfort. Still 2 gas canisters in pocket with 25 seconds left, but he will gamble those on some vertical play. as right now Loud outnumbers 9Z by 1. Will and Zhao both above as diffusers getting planted by Basetto, and there's no way for 9Z to deal with this other than to drop, and they will do so right to their death. What little remains of Zhao is finished up. Will now have 35 seconds again in a clutch or kick scenario as he found himself in the previous round, and he'll go 0 for 2 in that position. Admittedly, not entirely his fault. He was not set up for success by his teammates, and Loud will tie the game.
Good to be able to get that plant down in the 3v2. Always scary when you don't have top floor control on Consulate. They did have the Firebolt still in the pocket of Flashtree, which is often used to try to secure that plant without the top floor control, but they didn't opt to use it. They just let Basetto plant under smokes. Again, we talked about it quite a lot in the prep phase, but Loud love to use these objective focus strategies, right? They are the best planting team in the South America League. They're going against a team who have allowed quite a few plants, at least back in stage 1. So expecting to see a lot of those diffuse hits hit the ground. Basetto does it once again. Then it just comes with that consistent plan advantage. That's the first round that looks a little sloppy from 9Z, where they are maybe going for some swings they don't have to. They're losing that opening pick, of course, up above spiral stairs to STK. And so things get a little bit away from them. If Loud have started to find their feet, that certainly could start to turn the tables on 9Z. I want to see their entry players, Zhao and Vicente, really start to step it up and have big moments. Zhao's been great. He's been really aggressive, really strong on these early rounds. Vicente hasn't found a kill since round 1. We need the rookie to be strong for 9Z.
Really hoping for some good Denari play here. I haven't been wowed with the operator up to this point, but I mean, teams are functioning. Teams are reacting to a Denari very similarly to what we see from Castle, which is that a lot of people think that the idea of a Castle is to force people to slow down. Yeah, that is partially the focus, but a lot of teams will use a Castle to funnel you through another direction. Instead of wrestling with the Castle barricades or using utility explosives in particular to open up those castle barricades, they just want you to go another direction, maybe one that is easier for you, that is more well guarded by the defenders. It really does depend on the way that teams go about it. Bringing both a castle and an Inari is very intriguing here because you, at that point, don't have the same wealth of options, and it means that you're likely going to get slowed down or get starved of utility to handle these gadgets, whether it be the tripwires on the side of Denari or the castle barricades on the side of Castle. All the while, Loud have spent the first minute doing some discovery work. They've lost an awful lot of drones in the process. The one issue that Loud had last time they attacked here wasn't getting into admin, it was everything that came afterwards. Loud have been able to take admin control within halfway of this round. That's great pacing, but how do they get out of there? Because last time, it was not so smooth.
Well, I think having so much more time is going to make a big difference. It took them so long to get admin previously, and now with 90 seconds instead of 60, that can make a huge difference. 50% more time to work with. They've also still got a lot of good utility, right? Flashtree in with these Capital bolts can do a lot of good work. One more logic bomb from Live, and STK, not a clue where he's going to go with that Amaru, but he is outside the building looking to make some kind of a play. Inside the site, you've got some Tachanka bolts, but is it going to matter when the push comes in so aggressively with all these calls?
And immediately, 9Z go right back to their winning ways in terms of damage. Live and Basetto both in the ground. STK will join shortly thereafter. 9Z have lost barely any HP. Will is suffering through it, but it's all up to Perez. My goodness, a flawless round. Tuku's been sensational for 9Z, as has Zhao. These two getting hugely impactful kills. Tuku in particular excelling in every part of the map. Loud suffering through the exact same set of circumstances that they were experiencing just a couple rounds ago. 9Z putting up some very impressive rounds.
And who says the UMP is a bad gun? Tuku having a phenomenal game, primarily playing on those operators that run the UMP. Perfectly played again with the defense. Everything was set up over towards top spiral. They were ready for the pinch to come in through bathroom, very aware of what Loud were trying to do with that. Despite the extra time, they still kind of rushed it. As soon as those logic bombs came out, they didn't use that clock to try to work any picks, and that's certainly easier said than done on a map like Consulate, especially on the top floor. But still, 9Z feeling strong with that defense. I was a little worried coming into this because if we're working off stage 1 stats, Loud were the best attacking team in Stage 1 with a 56% win rate, and 9Z were the worst defending team in Stage 1 with only a 38% defensive win rate.
10 seconds
So you
left.
combine those stats together, you expect an extremely lopsided half, even on a map like Consulate. They've managed to get a 3-2 scoreline through the first 5. A 4-2, I think, is looking likely as they go back to piano as well. So 9Z, I think, in a strong spot to this game. I think it's really showing just how much these roster changes have changed things up for both of these teams. Looks like a completely new look, especially for 9Z compared to what we saw through all of Stage 1.
We'll end this first half with the same position that Tuco was in at the start of the first half, which was a pulse downstairs to enable this roam play by Vicente. He's got a read on that cardiac sensor that there's one player over by Visa. Nitro will actually capitalize on Flastry by the main door and immediately retreat live without a single kill. Flastry with just 2. Perez and STK combined for 10 kills, but a lot of those have either been in rounds 1 or have been exit kills before a loss of a round. So the numbers aren't, unfortunately, as impressive as Loud would hope. They have really struggled to find these targets on the side of 9Z. And 9Z just seemed to be all over the map, swarming Loud time and time again. After that previous round, which was won flawlessly by 9Z, you have to imagine Loud are playing a little bit scared. It sure certainly looks that way.
Seto would really like to have a drone to be able to go through that breach, but not the situation he's in. Has to just hold. His teammates aren't really with him. We've got a couple players up above. SPK is here with him on the Dokkaebi, but they don't really have a good push being set up to clear these players out of CEO. They were the real problem guys in round number 1 when they last ran this setup. Jiao and Vicente. Can they do it again now on round 6?
There goes a flash out. Live will break his goose egg. STK taken down by Tuku, who now gets double digits. And the Pulse can get back to this top floor to deal with the attackers roaming in this position. Jiao's position now given away as he fires over towards Projector. Loud don't really know where to go. They have no idea where these remaining players are. They could go back onto drones. They have plenty of time. I don't know if they have the wherewithal to do it, though. Will shut down by Live as now it looks like Loud is doubled up, and Live punishing Vicente on those admin stairs. The advantage that was on the side of 9Z is now completely gone. Loud playing together, playing confidently side by side, nets them 2 very swift kills and a numbers advantage. The tough part now, where are the last 2? You want to get back to the bomb site? All right, we'll do that. Tuku shutting down Live. He's got some bullet tracers in front. Outdueling Perez and now into a 1v1 with 20 seconds left. The goal just might be to hide Jesse. A dozen kills for Tuku, but a single bullet from either of the guns on the side of Baseto will be enough to kill him. Diffuser going down, and he's got a read on it. Tuku using the holes in the floor set up earlier to get his 3rd kill of the round, 13 in total. What an impressive first half from 9Z. Admittedly, doing what needs to be done as defenders on Consulate. But that is a statement first half. And with a side swap coming in, Loud have their work cut out for them.
Oh my god, it's a beautiful clutch to cap off a beautiful half from Tuku. Again, a guy that really struggled back in the first stage will be the only person in double digits and saving that half in the final round using the brand new Reaper on Pulse to be able to complete that 1v3 clutch. His positioning was perfect, Parker. His play with that Reaper was absolutely fantastic. Then his game sense in the end to play out the clock. Knew Baseto had to go for the plant. So well done by Tuku. Gets his name from the Argentinian state of Tucumán, which is where the Argentinian Declaration of Independence was signed back in 1816. And I think making his countrymen proud with a game like this, good God, 4-2 on the half slot. They should be feeling really happy.
You ever watch Breaking Bad, Jesse?
Attackers need to locate
I have. Great show.
Every time I see his name, I want to say Tuco from Breaking Bad. And let me be honest with you. Tuco was an intriguing character, not a particularly nice guy, but formidable enough where Tuku seems to be channeling his inner Tuco with 13 kills.
Oh, he's certainly looking as scary in this game, man. He has been absolutely lights out, and I feel like we've been waiting to see this out of a country not Brazil in South America for so long. You know, it's been years where some of these other teams in Argentina or Chile or wherever they might be from in South America, they've got the best scrim partners in the world. They can play against the Brazilians. They've just never really shown up at an international level. They've always been a significant step below Brazil, a significant step below even the rest of the world, often being compared to or even thought to be less than some of the weaker APAC regions. This version of 9Z, even if it does have 3 Brazilians on it, it's early days. I don't want to get ahead of myself still, but like I'm really liking what I see from these guys.
I will say it again. This region is so unpredictable that yes, there are the usual teams that tend to be towards the top. There's been a couple changes there. Obviously, we expect FaZe Clan and Furia to be 2 of those dominant teams. W7M has been looking pretty good as of late as well. They've had some struggles, mind you. No team is perfect. NIP out of nowhere have looked like a much better team as well. Team Liquid looked like a fine team, though they've had some very pronounced struggles that have now resulted in them blowing up the roster yet again. We'll see what the new additions to Team Liquid do to them when they go up against W7M in our final matchup of the day. The one team that we really haven't had a lot of time to talk about is Los, and they're actually going to be playing Furia in our very next match. But for these teams that inhabited the bottom slots in Stage 1, ENX, who just played against FaZe Clan, and now 9Z, there are very different storylines for those bottom two teams, Jesse, at least based on what we're seeing so far. I have been very impressed with some of 9Z's rounds up to this point.
Well, it's time for them to show what they can do on the offense. SDK in a really awkward position. He knows that there's a Deimos down below him, but the track isn't coming through. He's not been targeted just yet. He can stay alive, and even if he does, he's got 2 Kivas in his pocket. He could put one on the floor to stay alive. Still pressure coming in from Yellow Stairs. It's Vicente who's playing on that glass. Here comes the track right onto a zombie. That's going to force SDK to get a move on, and starts to take that damage from below, forced to get out of CEO. Now a plant starts to be a little bit more realistic. You still got to dodge the Nitro Cell in the hand of Perez, but if you can do that, this plant is starting to look good for 9Z.
See how Tugu's able to do with only 2 deaths, by the way. The only times he died were the 2 rounds won by Loud. So, I mean, if just looking based on numbers, he's playing very safe roles. He's playing very sheltered roles, but he's still netting very high impact kills. He's going to be at the forefront of this execute, and sadly for 9Z, he is the first casualty. Diffuser was getting planted, but it's been swatted away at by Loud, who've done a fantastic job of tearing through these 9Z attackers. Zhao downstairs fishing away to get kills that don't matter at all. And all the work that was done by 9Z in the first half now amounts to a 1-round lead as Loud take their very first opportunity as defenders and put it into the win column.
Okay, well, I was glazing in the first half. We can be a little critical in the second half. The push of 9Z had a lot of good ideas around it. This is a classic CEO window push in where you're going to use the Grim to get some extra pings. You're going to use a Deimos down below to force all those CEO players out. Then you're going to bait out utility, and then you're going to go for the plants. But that bait out utility part kind of got replaced with stall outside of the building and hold and pray they swing you. And that's not quite as effective when the defender's game plan is to hold Nitro Cell and just wait until they hear you swing in. Maybe for Maru, they could have baited that a little bit better. That's been a common strategy when going for that type of a plant on console at top floor so that you can quickly get in and out and dodge that Nitro Cell, those toxic babes. There wasn't even really a heavy focus on plant denial for Loud. They did have the smoke, but they got denied pretty early, or they got used pretty early, I should say, over towards yellow. The Goyo canisters had all been popped at that point. It was just the Nitro from Perez that was going to cause the problems. And then, of course, Live as well, who was able to sneak himself back into that corner where Zombie was previously playing. A couple of common problems on that bomb site that just wasn't able to be solved by 9Z, and they pay the price because of it. STK bringing the Boss G back. We'll see if we can do anything with the spawn peak.
So far, no. I see the Vigil and I see the Boss G, and I want the spawn peak every time. Every time. I don't care if it hurts your team. I don't care if it causes you to die. I just want the entertainment. I want to be entertained.
Who was it in NAL earlier this week that had some crazy Boss G play? There was somebody. I'm blanking on who it was.
It was the SSG match that we were talking about because SSG likes to do it all the time, and they were having it done to them. Truth be told, I can't remember exactly what team it is, but
Someone on standby. It was definitely standby.
yeah. Very slow round, Jesse.
I mean, at 9Z haven't been super eager to get into the building yet. They're very focused on just working the bottom floor. They don't care about map control. They're going to get into server. They're going to get the plant down there instead. Maybe aware that there's a Vigil up above and they don't want to have to deal with it. With Will on this Monty, stopping the plant is going to be easier said than done. Basetto has got some utilities to deal with it, and he's in the basement. Perez as well. Playing on that Ella could do something about a plant, but not going to be the simplest fact. We'll have to clear through this bottom floor to get towards cafeteria, which is likely where the goal is.
Zhao, yet again. Who is the player that keeps being involved in these early picks? It's Zhao, and he'll do it on the Dokkaebi. Logic Bomb still in pocket. That'll be the last one to use as this Boss G on Boss G violence. That was a fun thing to see. I mean, at this point, the SMG-12 has become the primary for Dokkaebi, so it doesn't really matter if you have the DMR or the Boss G. The DMR is a pretty decent gun, if I'm being honest, but
yeah, it's quite good.
But the Boss G earns you style points, which aren't reflected on the score sheet, and for a lot of players, that's very important, Jesse.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, for the last 40 seconds, they'll have to do it with a slight man advantage. The Monty's got good information, but Perez on the Scorpion gets an answer back, trades onto Zhao. That makes this crossfire now really deadly for Will.
Really poor impact tossed out by Perez. I don't think it did a single point of damage to the Monty. Vicente's there to tear down Flastry and Perez. Their focus was on the mountain, but they couldn't see around him. Live and Basetto now on the side of Loud. The last two still living. They're holding the angles from above. Live goes down. Basetto running for the hills as Will attempts the plant, but they have some reluctance here. Timer now at 0, so Basetto is keenly aware of what's going on. Tuku will get, I believe, his 15th kill. A tremendous performance from Tuku, and the lead for 9Z goes back to 2 rounds.
They waited out. There's no harm. There's no foul. We're not going to talk about Will pulling off the potentially worst possible time, but it's okay. 9Z put together a really strong push. It comes off of good early game where they get that opening pick. They shut down the Vigil, something I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to do. And then they just know what they want to go for with that execute. They've got players coming in from the server side. That's where everybody is focused on. Even when Dokkaebi goes down top spiral, there's somebody else behind the Dokkaebi. There is still that extra dimension, which makes everybody around spiral then fall to pieces. The vert angle that was staring at yellow could have been dangerous, but again, with a Monty coming through from the backside of the map, it's not really that big of a deal if you're holding the yellow door from up above, and he died anyways. So nice little push from 9Z. Much better than the first one. I think on both rounds 7 and 8, they had good ideas for their execute, but they put it together a lot better that second time around. And part of that just has to do with the bomb site, right? Console top floor is by no means easy to put together an attack for, but it prompts attack timeout from Loud. They will have a moment to talk with each other to get back into this game. They really need to be able to lock this down quickly. They had more wins in stage 1 than a couple of the teams that made playoffs. They had more wins than Black Dragons. They had more wins than Liquid. But because many of their wins came in overtime and because none of their losses came in overtime, they had fewer points. So for Loud, yeah, if you push this to OT and get the win, that's great. But you would really rather get this regulation win, take it down 7-5 so that you don't get in that same trouble that you were in stage 1 where the points just aren't lining up for you.
Did I miss a memo, by the way? I saw the players were no longer playing at the studio. Am I so far behind the times that I
think both in stage 1 and stage 2, groups are at home playoffs are on LAN.
I could have sworn groups of stage. I know that they played at that different arena for playoffs in stage one, but I maybe it all just blends together in my mind. But I could have sworn they were using the regular studio in stage one.
Everything, you know what? When you get up to your old age to where you're at, the dementia starts to slip in. You start forgetting things. It's perfectly normal. You don't have to be ashamed about it.
I might be the oldest man alive.
I would say so. Yeah, oldest person I've ever met.
I mean, even though there are people who are older than me who work on this broadcast, but we'll ignore that just for the sake of comedy. So
Potential.
we are getting word, by the way, from production that they will be playing on LAN in playoffs, but they've switched venues again. So it'll be interesting to see. Oh my goodness! Flastry gets Will and Vicente as they both drop from the yellow skylight. 2 incredibly free kills. And Perez was looking for yet another, tearing through Zhao, as now there's no choice but the Fenrir to find some security in a different part of the map. Zhao eliminates him, and the advantage that was there from that quick 2K under skylight is gone. Loud have lost Basetto and Perez. Those are one active, one passive gadget. They've still got the smoke and they've still got the Solus for added measure, so not all hope is lost. But Tuku's still on the board. 15 kills to his name. Zhao with 10 kills. The offensive threats from 9Z still very much alive.
Yeah, and Tuku's biggest play in the first half came from ratting top spiral. That's exactly what STK is doing. Could have a huge flank late in this round. It's going to be all about the timing. Can he avoid getting droned out? Can he find the back of this Blackbeard? Can he get some important picks to draw attention away? Give a little bit of free space over the Flastry and the rest of these site players. The impact that SDK will or won't have is likely to determine the result of this round. Does he go for the flank and try to get these kills before the push? Or does he just decide to play up above and maybe deny the plant vertically using the Solus scam? I will say if he goes for that, it's going to be tough with the shield planting.
Oh my, nice play by SDK onto Nitro. 25 kills combined between the final 2 players of 9Z, and it might not be worth a damn thing as SDK is collecting an impressive tally all on his lonesome. 2 separate players tuned in to Zhao. Kaid gets the job done with an explosive, and it did look for a moment there like 9Z was in the driver's seat of that round, but Loud answers a little bit stronger, and suddenly we are back to a 1-round game. Loud on the better side, but they are not making this easy on them and their fans.
STK didn't really get a choice. I was wondering if he was going to flank before or after, and then he just got face checked, so he decided he kind of had to make a move. Really well played, though. Very aware of where those last couple players would be on the side of 9Z. Crosshair placement was fantastic from STK, and of course, you got to go back to Flastry on those yellow stairs with the pump shotgun. Coming back into this team, you got to imagine he wanted to make a bit of a statement. We kind of heard some of his opinions in the pregame interview, right, where he talked a little bit about this Loud organization and about him rejoining this team. And if he had come out and Loud lose their first game and he doesn't really put up great numbers, there might be some people looking at him to once again question his spot on this lineup. But I think that was a really important round for him to step up, get some confidence. Now going to be 5 and 6. Not that he's played bad, I think, throughout this game. As a support flex player, he's not anticipated to be the guy throwing out of his mind, but good to see him stepping up when it's asked of him.
It's been a rough day for the debuts of, well, I mean, now it's Vicente, but we saw it on Mitrix as well in map number 1. Neither have been really tearing it up. I mean, with Mitrix, I think you can look at it and say, well, I think part of the reason is that the team just played so poorly. Vicente, he's playing on support roles, so I mean, it's not so important that he gets a ton of kills. That said, it's more about the way he's been playing that has left me scratching my head a few times. Thank goodness that this heat sink of Tuku and Zhao exists, as they're just gobbling up all of the kills. Again, they combine for 25 kills on the side of 9Z. The rest of the team combines for 11. So Tuku has more than everybody not named Zhao on the team has kills. Denari being brought out by Loud. Basetto takes down Tuku. That is unideal. You've lost the Nook. The element of surprise is gone. You've got trap operators. You've got a Pulse on the board. Pulse has been a staple here on Consulate since this game began. And 9Z finds themselves in really bad shape with 2 minutes still left to go.
We talked a lot about Loud focusing the plants and playing a lot of those shields, playing a slow style of attack, but 9Z have wanted to do the same, with Will bringing a lot of these shield operators to Consulate. His goal would be to get a plant down once again, but there are a lot of tools available to Loud. Every single player, with the exception of STK, has something in their pocket to stop Will from planting, and he's already half HP. Sometimes you can get lucky with the shield on your back stopping a lot of the damage from those explosives. We saw that in the NAL last night. But, I mean, with that many explosives and already half health, you've got to imagine it'll be tough to get the plant down if they know that it's happening, if they're aware of where it'll come. If they can get that massive man advantage, it might not even come to that. Perez gets away. I don't think he was aware of Nitro's position, so lucky to be alive off that one, but I think you're still kind of hunting for something on 9Z, because you know the plant is not really going to go your way.
You've been knocked so far off stride if you're 9Z, right? You've lost your Nook, which is an excellent operator for finding an opening and then causing panic where the rest of the team can compete with this. But hold on a second here. Zhao getting an uncontested kill, following up immediately after to get it down, but Loud snaps their fingers and retakes the site after allowing 9Z to gobble up some map control. Nice shot from Will as the rifle shield goes right back up, and now they'll attempt to plant, but what, oh my, happens with Loud. Will gets off of it right in the nick of time as the two remaining players from Loud start to circle the wagons down the main stairs. STK will come. Vicente will look for the lockout. Will one of these defenders be able to make it through? Yes, Flastry does. Poor coverage by Vicente, and Flastry makes his presence known. Welcome back. An easy counter disable, and Loud will tie the game off of Flastry's play.
Huge clutch coming up big time. They had the advantage for most of that round, got scary in the mid round. It looked like we were going to see Zhao crack that round wide open. He did get traded out, and the 2v2, man, it just really wasn't quite there. I think on both players, right? Vicente not covering the way he needed to. He had a difficult job. He has to cover two different angles at once. That's not easy, but doesn't get either of them is a tough spot to be in. But also Will, I mean, you get a good kill to get into that plant position, but then for the second time, we're seeing him pull off that plant, not able to commit to getting the defuse kit on the ground. We need to see that confidence. You have to be sure that your player behind you is going to be able to get that cover. Even if Vicente is missing those shots, you've got to have confidence as a planting shield player that the cover will be there. He's in the only position he can be. You're doing yourself no favors by jumping off that diffuse kit. So just more of that time not going their way. A little bit lost on that coordination for 9Z, and they're going to need to really lock back in for these last two rounds. They had the lead coming into their halftime. They had a good attack back in round number 8. They've shown that they can be strong on the offense, but too often, I think when the early round slips away from them, the recovery isn't there.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many.
Well, timeout called now as we will go all the way here in our second match of the day. I look a bit foolish because that first matchup between these teams in stage 1 was an 8-6 scoreline. Overtime not looking as likely given Loud's play as of late and the side that Loud is on right now. I would suspect Loud are in good territory to close this one out without needing overtime, which does loop back into a point I made earlier in the match, which was that when you look at the standings of stage 1, going to OT against a team like 9Z was the kiss of death. That gets one in regulation. Loud finishes in 5th place, and they go into playoffs quite comfortably. That single match in play day 1 of stage 1 can easily be seen as the reason why Loud failed to make it into the playoffs. If they can correct that mistake here, they'll set themselves up quite nicely. Though I will say, I think most teams have made some improvements. I think ENX looks like a better team, even if they did have some puzzling moments against FaZe Clan. I think Liquid will be a better team, but Liquid does typically struggle with roster changes early on. It usually takes them 2 or 3 games until they feel comfortable enough with their new roster to start making waves. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, maybe it'll take them even longer, maybe they'll be a worse team. That one, really, I'm not sure. But all the rest of the teams, I feel like, will play just as well, if not better. That means that Loud has to pick up the pace in these games against lower-rated opponents like Los, like ENX, like 9Z. Loud, going to OT, win or lose, is a loss by their own expectations here. So Loud are in pretty good spot.
Creating a real puzzle for 9Z. Loads of Kiva barriers. They might not have expected the Bandit as it was hidden through prep phase as well. So there's a couple of things here that they going to be a little bit afraid of. They'll go for a completely different push. We saw the first time they attacked top floor, they went all in for CEO, tried to get that plant down, just couldn't quite put it together. Now it'll be admin focused, which provides its own set of challenges. This vending hallway is so tough to take, and with Kiva barriers being set up here as well from live, it's going to make it even tougher. No doubt this will take some time to clear through. If they can get a free pick onto Basetto or something, that would be big. He runs through the flames to reposition onto Visa stairs. Zhao is down here, so depending on what Basetto wants to do, this could be massive, and there it is. Flanks down through the fire and the flames to clear out the player below, and that is a huge play by the smoke.
Now it's Vicente taking quite a beating on that Blackbeard. That'll leave just 3 players on the side of 9Z at full HP. Loud has taken their lumps as well. Blastry and STK look to have about the exact same HP. What little was of STK is now gone at the hands of Tuku, who's been held off the score sheet for a couple rounds. A bit abnormal for him. He's out-dueled by Flastry, but Nitro is there to avenge him immediately. A 3v3 with 40 seconds as Chaos is broken out on this top floor. They are inches away from the bomb site on the side of 9Z, but those inches can look like a mile at this point in time. Fire will continue to linger in front of these attackers. The Goyo canisters, even though Goyo is gone, still persist. Basetto's used all of his toxic canisters. Not a lot of utility other than a nitro cell on the side of Loud to stop this push, but the clock will be their best friend. 10 seconds left. 9Z will barrel through the same doorway, and there's that nitro lined up. Out goes an EMP that might have stopped it. Nitro engaging with Perez. Now he and Basetto will take the fight, and Loud sweeps through the remaining players of 9Z to take the lead.
My God, what a round. Utility play out the wazoo consistently on both sides. That EMP could have been game-saving. They used 2 EMPs to stop the Nitro Cell, timed it perfectly to be able to deny that C4 from going off. Both of them went through, but it just didn't matter in the end. The double swing came through from Perez and Live, one in through top spiral, one just through the meeting site. I'm also still just obsessed with Basetto's play throughout that round. Uses his first toxic babe over towards admin to cover the sound of him running through the Goyo fire to flank the Deimos down below. I still think that's such a sick play. And then he rotates all the way to the bottom floor, all the way up yellow stairs, all the way back to site, and uses his last 2 toxic babes to perfectly help stall out that push. Got full value in every part of the kit while still being incredibly aggressive. You think about Basetto as this hard support player who doesn't get kills, who plays shields and hard breach and smoke and is very objective focused, and you just don't think about a guy who's going to go for a play like that. I think the initial decision for him to go for something like that really caught 9Z off guard, and then the fact that he followed it up with great util play in the end game. Man, I was just really, really blown away by that, and then everybody else playing around it so well with utility. 9Z in a tough spot here. Loud's defensive looked just a little too good.
What did you say about Consulate? It's Defender Consulate rearing its head yet again. The attacking side has only won 3 rounds of the 11 that have been played so far. Loud won 2 on their attacking stead. 9Z have won a single attack so far. Now, if 9Z can match Loud's total, we go to OT and we end up in a very similar predicament as we were back in stage 1. I don't know if we're going to get to that point. Again, I think Loud has been playing a cut above 9Z through this half. The defenses from Loud have just been a little bit better, and they've just gotten a massive leg up, Jesse, as Perez eliminates Nitro, and with 2 minutes remaining, Loud has the lead in man count.
They've also just frozen the last exothermic charge on the garage wall, and I'm not sure if they're going to go for it, but they have 5 impact grenades if they want to start doing something with that exothermic. Could be big if they can stop that from happening. The roamers are still getting in gunfights, though. Flash Tree is not out of the woods, retreats back to where Live is playing and can now run down to the bottom floor. But Tuku is aware of this. They pop the Goyo. They're all aware of it, and Tuku hits the shot. What a game he's having, even with the DMR, is able to get avenge on his former teammate. Now it's a 4v4 with 90 seconds. They've rotated over towards the basement as this has ended up being a lot more successful on their entry points. Read by Loud, and they'll start to reposition to focus more towards server. The late reinforcements come out to make this push even more awkward. I believe they did get the garage wall open too, and I believe Vicente is out there holding it on the glass.
I mean, if you're going to lose anybody on the side of Loud, losing Flastry is not ideal with how he's played here as a defender, but at least those volcanic canisters will still exist. Live beheading Zhao. Tuku will be the saving grace for 9Z. He's the last player with a number of kills still alive. Loud swiftly shutting down just about anything 9Z can do. The diffuser is going, and they're positioned well in a post plan, especially Tuku will be able to take down SDK, but both members of Loud hit their shots. Terrific performance on their side, and Loud get this one done without overtime. A clean 7-5 to get themselves all 3 points.